Hi, everyone. The mission of the Newsa-Cast is to carry on the tradition and services of the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet that was held in Appleton for 57 years. The banquet has raised over $1 million for youth sports in the area during that time. And as we work up to a live event again, we have developed the Newsa-Cast podcast. Through conversations, we highlight the stories right here from our own backyard. And just like at the Red Smith Banquet, we highlight the youth of our area, the coaches, the schools, and even local influencers that make our community great. If you would like to help us continue our mission, please head over to redsmith.org to donate. Today on the Newsa-Cast, we are race walking with Jordan Crawford, an incredible race walker on his way to the Olympics, and he lives right here in good old Fox Cities. Tosh and I, we take an old look at new. Our Red Smith Banquet throwback takes us back to the Milwaukee Braves, Warren Spahn. Tosh and I end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
I'll get kids will come up and be like, hey, like we saw you walking online or something like that. You know, you're really inspiring. Like that brings more joy for me now. That's more my drive, is that intrinsic motivation to keep going in this, because you know, that gets me up every day. I'm like, oh yeah, I can get up and do this.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to an episode of the Newsa-Cast. We are coming back with a fantastic interview, and we're getting into the world of competitive walking.
Yeah, race walking, Tosh.
Race walking, yeah. And somebody right from our own backyard. You barely, probably most of you don't even know him.
You might have seen him walking by, but you're right, Tosh. It's the great thing about this podcast. We're discovering all kinds of people that are right here in our backyard. Jordan is one of them. From Atlanta, Georgia, moved here because of Warner Electric. He has a job with them, and he brings along an Olympic quality race walker. I mean, he's in line to be in the Olympics coming up here in the next few years. But yes, he's a competitive race walker. He walks 8-9 miles an hour. Walk, not run. Walk. There's a specific stride that we get into, Tosh. It's all about that straight front leg. That's the key. But yeah, Jordan's a great guy. Really, really cool guy. Interesting guy. It was more than walking. I mean, we usually do, we kind of geek out a little bit on the science, the mechanics of actually walking and what it is. But yeah, he loves books. He loves music. He loves restaurants. You and I love restaurants. So we love that. We love the interview, and I think you folks will too.
Yeah, get a little insight about it. Maybe you'll see him walking around the Fox Valley. Puts in a lot of hours. And Jordan Crawford, fantastic interview. And you know, could be in line to be another one of those guests that, you know, is future Olympian. We've had several of them on, and it's cool to see people from this neck of the woods making the Olympics. And you know, he's shooting for that 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Games. Yeah,
absolutely. That is the cool part, right, Tosh? I mean, I feel like when we grew up, you know, a couple of decades ago, there was hardly any Olympians around here. Now you have Olympians in curling, you have Olympians in race walking, you know, Maddie Wanamaker and rowing. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Aaron's just builds a brand new facility specifically for the Olympics, you know, to train the athletes. So the Olympics are strong in this area more than they've ever been in the last 20 years. And Jordan's a testament to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great interview. Just goes in another, you know, if you're wondering what we're talking about and you're just joining, we got a lot of episodes. We got a lot of people. Go check them out. There's some really good ones. The people who were interviewed, all of them are really good. So make sure you go check those out anywhere you get your podcasts for sure.
Tosh, it's a little bit of a trend. I was thinking about this the other day. So The Newsa-Cast has been around for about 2 years, where we concentrate on local folks, specifically sports, but we branch out into other things, some music, and we've had Jennifer Stefani from from ADI, things like that. But come to find out, we always thought local content people crave that a little bit. And there's more and more of it in this area. It doesn't only come in podcast form, although there are local podcasts. ADI, it started a brand new podcast, Talk of the Town, which is long form interview with folks downtown. But you have Dale Vervoort, who we've interviewed. Dale from Fox Cities Sports Magazine. He's the one that actually got us Jordan Crawford. He connected us. But that's local content in a magazine style form. The old Sports Illustrated when we grew up. You love the glossy magazine. That's exactly what the Fox City Sports Magazine is. And of course, Paul at AppletonSportsPage.com. That's on the website side, the online side. But it's all local sports, local content, and that's really cool to see. And I know we're happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of local, Friday night, Tyrese Halliburton was back in Oshkosh.
Yeah.
And has come to find out that over the course of the next 3 years, he's donated $3 million to Oshkosh North, where I'm an assistant principal at. And that money's going. We have new scoreboards. We have a new equipment in our weight room. We renamed the field house, the Frank Shady field house, which is incredible. Hall of Fame coach, just a crazy amount of wins. Really an amazing career. There's going to be a lot of different things that money's going to go towards, but that's another person, we talk about people in the Fox Valley. I mean, he has ties. He loves the Fox Valley. He loves Oshkosh, and still is supporting people in our community and giving them, giving these kids coming through Oshkosh North the things that a school like Oshkosh North doesn't usually have.
So cool to hear. I mean, he's an incredible guy as well. Really, really humble kid. Young kid, yeah, Oshkosh North grad. Yeah. That has to be, I mean, how rewarding for you and all the teachers that had him to see him come back, and then for him to get back to the community is, you can't ask for anything else.
Yeah, you can't. And, you talk to anybody who had him, who knew him, and they talk about what a great young man he is. And obviously, he's donating back, does a pro camp every year at Oshkosh North for kids in the community. So he continues to give back. He was in a walking boot, which was great to see him off crutches. So he's making some progress back from the Achilles tear. We'll see him in another year, and he'll be back playing, and it'll be great to see. Good things definitely in store for him.
Yeah, no doubt. Another kid right from our own backyard. It's really, really cool to see. How was your week, Tosh? Probably not as good as the Brewers.
Not as good as the Brewers. We record this on a Sunday, and unfortunately they dropped a game, but they had a 14-game win streak. That was fun to watch.
Got us free hamburgers.
Free hamburgers at George Webb. Too bad we don't have a George Webb up here anymore.
I know. Pulaski's the closest one I heard.
Pulaski?
Yeah, that's what
really?
I said too. But Pulaski has one. I think it's attached to a gas station, but legit George Webb. I was shocked too.
Wow, I didn't think there were any up here anymore. I thought they all closed. There used to be one in Fond du Lac.
Little
Pulaski,
Diner.
okay.
Little Diner. We'll do the old look at new early, right? The Little Diner Express was a George Webb back in the day.
Yes, it was. Yeah, so that's been fun to watch. Just my week has been getting ready for teachers to come back. In Oshkosh, they come back this coming week. So all the Oshkosh area school district teachers, welcome to the 25-26 school year. We have 2 weeks of in-service, and then the kids come back the following week. So had a lot of administrative meetings this past week, and just getting set for the year. How about yourself, Joe?
Yeah, school starting, right, Tosh? Well, football starting. I was out on a mail route yesterday, Saturday, and right by Appleton West, they had, I think it was the youth, like the AYFA youth, but they're all starting as well. But they had their scrimmages, inter-squad games going on. All the high schools had their big scrimmages, and then the season kicks off this coming Friday. This
week. Yeah.
This comes out on Thursday, and there's already games tonight on Thursday and Friday, and the season's underway. Boy, does it go quick too, Tosh. When they kick off, those 8-9 weeks fly by, and before you know it, it's Thanksgiving and the state title has been crowned.
Yeah, then we have some good teams in the area. Kimberly is going to be solid again. I just saw Nina talking about Nina. Bayport won state last year. Appleton North has been on the news. The FBA is tough, and it's going to continue to be tough. It's a really good games. Any game you go to, you're going to see some good football. The FVLs and Xavier's, Oshkosh North had a great year last year, and hopefully they can continue this year. Notre Dame looks to be solid again as well from what I've seen. High school football is a blast. It's awesome. It's a great environment. You see the lights on, go check it out.
Absolutely.
If you see the lights on a different night, go check out soccer.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on, we have some great athletes and some great young people doing some amazing things in the Fox Valley.
We really do. We've come to like that saying, if you see the lights on, stop by. Something good's happening under those lights for sure.
Absolutely. Anything else exciting happening for you, Joe?
I had a laugh, Tosh. I was watching some social media, and I don't know if you saw that the fighter jet flew over Wrigley Field and scared the living bejesus out of everybody. But it reminded me back, and you might have even gone. I remember going to a Cubs Dodger game back in the 80s, and the same Aaron Water show was going on. That's been going on for years in Chicago. If anybody ever, it's probably the best air show, I would say, in the Midwest. I mean, they fly through the buildings up and down the lake and just come out of nowhere. But anyway, it reminded me of Tommy Lasorda back then coming out of the dugout to watch the planes right during the game. It was kind of funny. And Tommy was a character. He, to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, I mean, he came to the Red Smith Banquet. We have a throwback of him. And Tosh, that the numbers that we get on people viewing Tommy Lasorda, we literally get, I feel like we get 100 a week, just random people listening to that. I think that's gone almost 10,000 views of Tommy Lasorda, but an incredible speech. I mean, what a guy. But that Aaron Water show, I don't know, for some reason I always just associate Tommy Lasorda with that because he liked airplanes too, evidently. Linguini and airplanes, baby. Tommy,
I know you have some great stories. I mean, Tommy grew a friendship with your dad.
Yeah.
From coming to the Red Smith. So, yeah, you have some great stories about that. That's awesome. He was a character for sure.
Oh, he really was. I love to eat as much as anybody and certainly love Italian food, but I can always remember going down to Wrigley Field. Jerry Davis is a good buddy of ours as well. The umpire, he was the National League umpire at that time. So I don't know, about an hour and a half before the game, we're sitting in the dugout and we go up the tunnel up to the visiting locker room in old Wrigley Field, just a small little place. And in the manager's room, they looked like they were feeding 30 people, but it was just the coaching staff, basically Tommy Lasorda and Joey Amalfitano as third base coach. They had so much food. They are just crushing linguine and some kind of just pasta bread, Italian. It was quite the spread. And it was, like I said, it was less than an hour and a half before the game. So I'm sure there were many nights Tommy's belly was full of pasta while he was managing the Dodgers to quite a few victories.
The umpires probably hated that because he smelled like garlic when you went out there and yelled at him.
That's right. Yeah, and Eric Gregg smelled like a cheeseburger, so it was probably one and the same, right?
Probably canceled each other out.
That's right. Never thought about that, though. That's kind of an evil trick, isn't it? Eat a whole bunch of garlic and go out and argue?
There you go.
We'll have to get Jerry Davis on this podcast. Have him tell some stories, but bad breath, man. That's a weapon.
Worst breath. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, luckily people don't have to smell our breath while we do this podcast, but
poor Mike.
We might as well get this show going and move on so people can listen to the amazing Jordan Crawford talk about his race walking.
Absolutely. Giddy up. It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, this time we take a little look at history. Go back sometimes way in time, other times fairly recent, but we take a little look that we like to call the old look at new. So, Joe, what's your little look at the old look at new this week?
Well, Tosh, I'm going to keep it close to home, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Alexander Gym, good old Lawrence University, that beautiful old gym. Mm-hmm. There are actually two Alexander gyms. The first one was originally located on the north side of the river, called Alexander Gym. And in 1905, that held the first high school state basketball tournament, which I did not know. So first state basketball tournament right here in Appleton, Wisconsin at Alexander Gym. A few years later, that went now to the original Alexander Gym, which, by the way, I think they just finished renovating, and it looks really nice. And that whole complex over there looks incredible, doesn't it? The baseball field, mm-hmm. the track, football field. But anyway, I thought one of the greatest stats from Alexander Gym was the fact that the men's basketball team, they played UW-Whitewater back in the day. The year was 1915. Lawrence University held Whitewater on that day to the fewest points in Lawrence history. They held them to 1 point. That game took place in 1955, and the Vikings won that contest 51-1.
Wow.
Incredible.
That doesn't even seem right.
No, that doesn't. Who the hell fouled?
Exactly.
To send them to the line. I mean, come on. But anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. It's a cool building. There's so much history in there, and we've had a lot of the Lawrence folks on, and we've talked about all the different buildings, Alexander Gym and the Bonta Bowl, and we learned that a river went underneath the under the Bonta Bowl, which we never knew. So it's a pretty cool area, super pretty with the trees and well developed. So yeah, we love Alexander Gym.
I got to spend some time in Alexander with the baseball team when I coached there. With Corey Krieger, former, he's been on the podcast as well. And it is a cool place. There's definitely been a lot of revisions since I coached there, in the early 2000s. So really cool place. So a lot of history. I'm sure that, people can tell you some great stories about that place. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, Tosh, that's my old look at new. How about you? What are you going to take a look at this week?
So we're going to go back. We're going to tie this all together a little bit. This one, we're going to travel a little.
All right.
August 16th, 1977, the death of the great entertainer, Elvis Presley. So Elvis died in 1977 on August 16th, but a couple months before that, on June 24th, 1977, he flew into Madison and he played a concert at the Dane County Coliseum. 1977 Elvis is not the, super sleek Elvis that we saw in the movies and stuff like that. He's a little overweight. He's wearing the jumpsuits. He's fat Elvis. But Elvis had a love with karate, right? And I guess from what I've heard, he had several black belts. So Elvis is driving home in his limo. He's on East Washington Avenue, right on the corner, close to the corner of East Wash and Highway 51. And he sees two guys beating up this teenager. And Elvis isn't going to let that happen. And he gets out of his car, out of the limo, has a pullover, and he goes over and he gets in his karate move, and he ends up breaking up this fight. There is a plaque in Madison on that corner of East Wash and Highway 51 that says this is the spot where Elvis broke up this fight on June 24th, 1977. And it's legendary. They talk about it. People travel to Madison to see this little monument that is still there today. And it's just kind of an interesting story. It happened about 2 months before he died. And August 16th, 1977 is that date. I don't know a lot about Elvis, as before before my time, and he does have some good songs, so I don't mind listening to some of those.
Yeah, me either. Man, what do you think those kids thought of when the king rolls up on you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's what broke it up. They're like, "Holy crap, this is Elvis!" And yeah, so I guess the story goes they all shook hands and they left, and this teenager, thanked him, and yeah, kind of a crazy story.
Ah, incredible, incredible. Yeah, we'll have to listen to a little Elvis, Tosh. I love that story. You always have the best old look at news. That might be that's bidding for number one.
Yeah,
Great story.
Next time you're in Madison, check it out on East Washington Avenue and Highway 51.
All right, folks, we have somebody we're glad that we just recently met. We have Jordan Crawford, a race walker. Jordan lives in Menasha, originally from Atlanta, but he tells us his story, and it's a fascinating story, folks. So sit back and enjoy Jordan Crawford. Very first question right out of the gate. You're from Atlanta, Georgia. What do you think of the weather? How's the winter treating you?
It's something else. Going from 80s, 90s, very humid all summer, and then winters are like mild around like 50s or 60s, going to like 30s and 20s and teens is kind of tough. I lived in St. Louis before, so I lived in St. Louis for 4.5 years before moving to Wisconsin. So
Sure.
I got a little bit of a taste of it then. But there's nothing like the Wisconsin, the North, Midwest, like coldness. There's nothing like that. So
Cuts right through you, right? That northwest wind, it feels great. Refreshing.
Yeah, it's tough, when I have 5 a.m. walks or something. I'm like, man, this is rough. Like it takes a lot to get out there on my own. So,
Absolutely. I'm an early riser as well. I do my workouts at 5 a.m. So I'm interested.
okay.
Do you walk right through the winter?
Yeah. I walked right through the winter. For the most part, I'm outside. Sometimes I'm inside. Just depends on if it's snow on the ground and I'm slipping, then I'll come inside. But I walk most right through the winter. The winter season, for distance people in general is distance runners, walkers, is kind of like what I would call it, the base period. So like I work on my base a lot. I do just a lot of miles in the wintertime. There's not many races just because we don't around the nation and the world, we don't have that many races going on there at that time. But I do like train just through the winter to get kind of ready for the racing season when it starts in the spring.
Yeah. I suppose the biggest is to navigate the ice, the black ice, the snow. Is that I'm also a letter carrier, so I feel your pain. I walk all day as well. So that's got to be challenging. For one, I could understand how somebody could get injured and just on a slip.
Oh yeah. No, like for me, I've had to, when I've moved up here to Wisconsin, I've had to kind of like, take a good more look at my shoes, other little things where I'm like, okay, I got to have this, and this before I go out. Um, you can't you got to go out with these like grippy shoes. I got these other ones that are for like the winter training. They have just a little extra kind of like almost like a winter tire.
Yeah.
I call them like they're just got like more of a trailish walking shoe that I use. I try to layer up. Nothing is exposed on me when
Yeah.
I'm going out. So it is a lot. Like it's a different animal being up here in Wisconsin, in the Northeast Wisconsin area, dealing with this type of weather.
Yeah. I have found though, when you're active, as long as you kind of keep your hands, your feet, and maybe your head warm, you can sweat in the winter and get a pretty good, you can get warmed up pretty quick and feel pretty loose, and even in the middle of winter.
Oh yeah, because for me, one of the things I will say, when I started like walking up here, like for me, and I don't know if it's always been this way, but I've always had to deal with so hands, feet get real cold pretty quickly, pretty easily. When I and everybody always talks about it. It's like, oh man, your hands are always cold. I'm like, yeah, my hands are always cold. I have to like wear, I don't even wear the regular gloves. I usually wear like, they're like Carhartt ski gloves, like that
Sure.
you would actually like mittens. And that's what I usually have to walk in the wintertime because like my hands will get cold. My core stays pretty warm, but the hands get really cold.
Yeah.
I usually got some like hot hand heat warmers in the hands as well with those just to keep my hands somewhat above life. I don't know.
No, I completely understand it. It's tough to keep the extremities warm for sure. I was
Mhm.
going to ask you this a little bit later, but you brought it up, your shoes. One, how many pairs of shoes do you have? And how long, I guess, how long does a pair of shoes last you? I mean, that many miles, you got to be burning through shoes monthly, if not more.
And shoes. I'm probably you're right. Probably in the monthly-ish time. I think I do about, and it's rough. It's a rough estimate, but I do about 400 to 600 kilometers a month, I would say.
Sure.
So that's somewhere around like 80 to 100 miles a week. So that's where I'm kind of pushing.
Yeah.
So those shoes, and the shoes, like, they're meant to go 300 to 500 miles before they kind of like wear down, or you want to kind of replace them. But when you're in the winter, like up here, it's just like a car. It gets exposed to extreme conditions that aren't regular. So
Yeah.
you got to kind of replace them quicker. I've had to replace mine quicker. Again, I think I'm at around like once every month is probably, so I'm going through shoes a lot. I'll try to like double them where I buy two or I have two shoes at the same time, and then I'll switch back and forth each day between those so they can kind of last a little bit more.
Right.
The sole will rejuvenate a little bit more, but yeah, I'm going through them a lot.
Oh,
So
I can't even imagine. Are your shoes wearing like in certain spots? I mean, my shoes as a letter carrier, they look great on the outside. You look at the soles, and there's certain areas that are just worn to nothing.
yeah, no, it depends. Like when I was in college, I used to have this like issue with my hips and stuff, and that causes like your foot to land in a different spot. So I used to like supinate on my right, so my right outer sole would go down a bit more or wear a bit more than the left, the inner part. I've done some work on that, especially in the gym. So I've come to the now I'm working like, okay, I can do. I've gotten to where it's even. It's pretty even now. I'll see um my wear patterns a lot of times when I get close to the end of life on a shoe, then I'm like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Like,
Right.
I've worn down right down the middle or kind of even distributed down. Yeah.
You must then, do you watch film of your stride? I mean, you've got to be, I'm assuming, completely conscious of the stride. And it's interesting that you said your hip hurt because because your stride wasn't quite correct. You needed to adjust that to fix the hip issue.
Yeah. So with my stride, I take probably every few weeks or so. It just depends. Usually if I'm out of the track and I have a good setup where I can like set my phone down and record myself. And I usually just record myself like with it sitting straight ahead on a track where I can see my stride, where it's landing, all that type of stuff. I'm not like, I know some walkers out there in the world who have like really nice setups. They're like at a, Olympic training center types where they have like a full setup. They can test that. And in college, I wouldn't say it was an Olympic training center type test, but like we had a treadmill and a camera and stuff that we could do that on, with a nice little setup for us that we could do. So I used it more in college. Now I've kind of built in my stride and everything is, wouldn't say perfected, nothing's perfected, but it's to the point where I know where I'm at. I can usually take running dynamics on my watch or something and see like the stride length from there and go, okay, yeah, I know where I probably need to correct myself a bit more.
Right.
Or where I can, get that, I can go to a coach or somebody advice and get some advice on that. So yeah, it's pretty, um, like I do record myself here and there, but not as much as like some would probably say I should or something.
Right. How long did it take you? I know it's not perfected, but how long did it take you to get the stride down? I'm assuming it's probably different than actually like a casual walk, isn't it? it's probably a different. Everything is probably different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than a casual walk. You use some of the same muscles, but it's faster. You're using your arms a bit more than people would assume. Um, it took me, I would say, probably to where I got the form down, where for me, I wasn't getting, what we call like cards or a lot of cards in a race. It's like disqualification cards or something of the sort. It probably took me about 6 months, I would say. And then after that, things kind of picked up where I really started picking onto it. I know some people who I coach or I'll teach or clinic at, they'll pick it up right there. Like, they'll pick up some of the really basics pretty quickly in that week or 2 weeks. And then to get your real stride, to understand like your own stride, it takes a hot minute. I would say like 6 months to a year. For me, it took that long. So before I really started getting it down, I think also some of the stride where you're kind of gaining your own stride is conditioning your own muscles to the movement. It takes a lot. When you first start, you're hurting. You're
Yeah.
using different muscles that you haven't ever used before, probably, or using more frequently than you ever used. So now you're like, okay, I got to get used to this, and you may be able to hold the stride and what you're doing for 100 meters, but do that for a mile, 4 laps around a track. It's gonna hurt. Gaining that stride, be able to do it long term is something that it took me a minute.
Yeah. Is everybody's stride similar? Does everybody's stride unique in some way? Or are you all just striving for the exact same stride and form?
No, it's a good question. I think everybody's stride in race walking is unique. Everybody lands a bit differently just because of naturally your anatomical leg length is like, hey, like some people are taller, so they're going to stride out a certain bit. The thing with race walking, though, is that there are the rules, right? And the two rules are you got to land with the straight leg and it's got to pass under the body straight. And then the other rule is you got to stay on the ground. You got to try to have, to the naked eye of the human eye, a foot on the ground at all times, right? So with those two constraints, when you look at it from, let's say, if you're watching an Olympic race or a world championship race, even USA track and field championships or something like that, everybody's stride is going to look very similar because they have to be within those boundaries, those rules. But when you really start breaking it down, if you did a side by side comparison, you're going to be like, oh, that person lands a lot shorter. This person strides out a bit longer, or this person pushes out and tries to get more stride in the front versus this person tries to get more stride on their back and their back kick or whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot more because of those boundaries. If you're looking at it like a big pack, you'll be like, oh, they all look kind of similar when they're walking. But then if you're going one by one and you start individually looking, you're like, oh no, they don't. They have a little bit difference in them.
Right. So could you explain that again? The leg, I get that both feet have to be on, but you said the landing leg, that front leg needs to be straight.
Yeah, so when you land in running, think of it as like you're running, you land, and here's my finger, but you're running and you always land kind of like on your forefoot and then as a bent knee. And
Right.
so you get that kind of shock that goes through your shins, through up your quads, right? And so you get this landing like this. In race walking, though, we have to land with a straight leg. And then it's going to go straight all the way up under until it passes up under the body. Once you get past the body and it comes back around on the next stride, you can bend it and it's got to land straight again.
But you're landing, that front leg's landing on the heel, and then the foot's rotating over, coming off the ball of your foot.
Exactly. So it's just kind of a different landing point. And that's kind of for a lot of new people getting into it, that's usually like a big change because you are usually landing on your forefoot when you're running, and then you switch to walking, race walking, and you're landing on the heel. Now, if you're regularly walking, you would also notice, like if you're regularly walking, a lot of times you're landing either closer to the heel in general. You're landing on your heel because race walking resembles regular walking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a regular walker, you probably get it and be like, oh yeah, I guess I just consciously now got to think like, oh, I am landing on my heel. But so it is a big difference. It's almost like, for me, when I'm like running and race walking, I have to like switch minds and be like, okay, I'm race walking today. I need to land on that heel more.
Yeah. Does the hamstring kind of right through the glutes, does that take a lot of I guess, right, the Achilles, all of that has got to be, well, pretty strong, and feels like that takes the brunt of what's going on.
Oh yeah, I would say that takes the brunt. A lot of at least the shock absorption, that takes the brunt. I will say the quads do a lot of work when you're pushing off the back toes. The quads are a lot doing the force production to get you forward, and the calves. But even then, the calves are also doing work absorbing that energy coming through as you land on that heel. It's going to send up, and your hamstrings are really the ones that are usually going to get worked the most because they're the ones doing a lot of the shock absorption in there.
It's important to stay hydrated, isn't it? Keep those things fluid. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a long walk. I was walking yesterday. I coached a lady, and then I had did a walk for about like 14 miles, and that was one of my, probably in recent times, I haven't got up back up to 14. I've been doing, like, before in the wintertime, I would do long walks of 18, 19 miles. But I had just gotten back up to 14, 15 yesterday, and my hamstrings were hurting. I was like, it got to the last couple miles, and I was like, oh boy.
I'll bet.
And when you're going up some of the hills in the Fox Valley region where I'm at, like if you're going up some of these hills, I know I walk around the downtown Appleton area. If you're going up some of those hills, then it gets kind of tough.
Yeah. A typical course when you're in competition, is it flat, or are there hills in those competitions?
Yeah, we usually have flat courses. If they're off the track, right? We've had track races this year, a decent number of those. So those are always kind of flat because they're tracks. But we've done courses that are on the road. Those are most of the courses that you'll see at big races, international or in national. And in that case, they're mostly flat. They'll have just a slight grade, maybe, but it's usually flat. You think of it's not in a parking lot, but you think of like a parking lot, how flat a parking lot usually is. That's usually like what we're on.
Right. Do you, in your training, do you ever run, or is it just strictly walking?
No, I run. I would say I run. So, and it depends on the time frame. If it's in the base in the wintertime, I'll run probably about like 30% of my training. And then the other 70% is walking. Once I get to racing season, then it kind of tunes down to maybe like there's one day of running. So there's probably like 10% running, and mostly it's 90% walking. So it's usually mostly walking, and just because like it is tough. Like usually the running days that I'm running are more recovery days where I really don't want to like put my hamstrings through it, right. I should say. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'll work the quads a bit more today. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go run. I wouldn't do a workout. I always do workouts, race walking, but yeah, so it's like harder workouts. But yeah, the walking, I'm like, I walk about 70% in the wintertime, and then I bump it up even more in the racing season. Then I'm almost strictly walking.
Yeah. What is your recovery? I mean, how do you rest your body, your feet, your hammies, all of that?
It depends on the season, and when if it's cold out and I'm not trying to get sick or do something, like I may go in and I may do what distance people consider like cross training, either like elliptical or there is indoor cycling. I go to a couple of spin classes, to try to, build up the quads while also like, keeping the pounding of the pavement off, right? So I try different things, I should say. I don't like, and some days I just, for easy days, again, like I'll go really easy. I think my walking paces and races are probably low sevens, and easy days I may go like 9 to 9:30 a mile. It's really easy. Again, it's like what runners would consider conversational pace or something like that, right? I'm going about that pace to, it's something where it's like, I'm not trying to win, and become better. I'm just trying to make it to the next workout. So that's it.
Do you ever pass a jogger when you're walking?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
You get dirty looks. What do they say?
Yeah, it's usually like whoa, dude, or like it's or then they'll find me, or somehow they'll find me on Strava or something, and they'll be like, they'll comment on my Strava post like, "Dude, I saw you, man. I can't believe how fast you were going. So I tried to wave, but you were too fast." I was like, "Okay." So yeah, it's always interesting when I pass like people, or then I'll have people come around town or something. They'll be like, "I saw you the other day." I was like, "Oh, you could have said something," but
Well, when you put on that many miles, yeah, you're bound to be seen several times.
yeah, I'm always in the area. Some people usually see me.
I love that. You touched on it. You mentioned that the arms play a big part in the stride, and I guess can you explain what the arms do and how what do they do?
Yeah, so I will say like a lot of people undertake the arms, and when I first got started, I didn't take the arms as seriously in it. And when you think about it, and even you'll hear like when I was younger, I did track. I ran track and walked, right, and basically a half and half split. And my coach in running used to always say, like your legs do what your arms do, right? If you pump your arm faster, your leg's going to go faster. And that's basically the same thing for race walking, is that if you pump your arms harder, in a relaxed, harder state, shouldn't be like you're stressing, but if you're pumping your arms harder, giving more power behind behind the push off, or I mean the thrust in the back, you're gonna get more stride out the back. Or if you push them forward, you're gonna get more stride out the front. If you're swinging them, lackadaisical, you're gonna get lackadaisical legs that aren't force producing as much as they should be, right, off the toe off and off that stuff. So when I always tell walkers, that I'm coaching or I'm showing clinics to or something, I'm always like, hey, like, when they ask me how can I get faster, I'm always saying like, hey, the way to get faster should be use your arms. Try to, think about really, focus on your arms, really pushing off, throwing your arms forward, pushing your arms back, and your legs will follow. So in my case, like, how I got a lot faster over the years, and especially in college, I will say is I got stronger with my arms. I really started, in the gym doing exercises to try to, get my arms a bit stronger, especially in the functional movements, which is basically like this hinge motion that we do in running or walking.
Right.
And so I've use that to like get better. I think overall though, like the arms play a huge part, and especially when you've gotten to the point where your legs are really good, your form is good, how can I get faster? The arms are probably the next best thing for you.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. Is that probably I don't know what the right word is, that maybe the thing that most get used to in the form is just because that's probably the oddest looking thing, right? In the walking, when you're walking down the street passing people, it's just you're swinging the arms so fast. That's probably subconsciously, that's probably the last thing that you really feel comfortable with.
Oh yeah. So for like, that's the toughest. That's probably the toughest part. And for me, like too, like when you're pumping like that, like when I'm running, I actually don't like, yes, you're pushing your arms and you're really pumping your arms and stuff. But it comes very natural per se when you're running. You almost sometimes don't even have to, pump as hard.
Right.
But when you're walking, it's like you have to really focus on it because that's what's going to drive your legs forward on each step. And I feel the difference. Like if I'm, really pumping my arms, each step feels a little bit more powerful. Versus when I'm running, I kind of feel like I'm a gazelle or something. I'm like prancing across the road. But it's like when I'm walking, though, I'm like, okay, I need to really pump these arms. It hurts. You will feel like, especially over a long period of time with how long our walking races are, you can feel like it start to kind of hurt in your triceps and your like underarm area and stuff. You can start to kind of feel it in there. So it's another muscle that takes some time getting used to. But for me, for me now, I'm just so used to it. People see me around town. They're like, oh, there he goes. And I'm like, like, I don't mind.
That we've been fortunate enough on this podcast to talk to a lot of athletes, a couple of Olympians, and I'm always fascinated by the mental aspect, because that's tough to get through injuries and I mean, it's as much mental as it is physical. And I mean, what are some keys? How do you get through that mental part? How do you get through the fact you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and train?
Yeah, so I always tell people it's like you really got to like it. You really got to love it, honestly. For me, like I started when I was younger, and I started again, like I think I said this in that article, Fox Cities. I said, like when I started, it was about um, the medals, and I went from I played basketball before. I'm 6'5", or around that. I'm 6'4", 6'5", and I played basketball before, and I wanted to try a different sport. I was like 10 years old. I was like, I need to try something new. So I went out to the track, and that's when I started, walking, race walking, running, and all that stuff. And my whole goal when I started race walking was like, hey, like, is this something that like there aren't a lot of people in, so I could get like medals? Because I want a medal. Like
Yeah.
I need anything, right? So I was like, oh, like when I won my first little like medal, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like I'll keep doing it. But over time, um, it wasn't just about the medals. Like, when I was younger, I would get the medal and, hang it up, and this is the greatest thing. Now I get a medal, and not to say anything for races, but, I get a medal. I'm probably like, okay, like this is going in the drawer. Like, like, I like it. I'm great. I participated, but I'm like, this is probably going in the drawer. What I care more about is not like I obviously the time is great too, but I just like doing the sport. It's fun, it's unique.
Yeah.
It's a thing that people come up all the time and ask me, and like I'll get kids when I go to AAU Junior Olympics or USATF Junior Olympics. Kids will come up and be like, "Hey, like we saw you walking online or something like that. Like, you're really inspiring." Like that brings more joy for me now, and I continue to do it because I'm like, okay, I'm inspiring people. Right? I'm doing things. Trying to give people, motivation to go do this themselves, or get up and work out and do those things. So that's more my drive now, which is that intrinsic motivation that I needed to keep going in this. Because getting up at 5 a.m., if you don't have that intrinsic motivation for it, then it's just not going to happen. If you're extrinsically worried about medals, it's just not going to happen. So, for the mental aspect is finding that intrinsic motivation for the why you do this. That purpose is very important.
Yeah.
Because that gets me up every day. I'm like, oh yeah, I can get up and do this. I know.
I love that. And that makes sense for sure. What when you are training, when you're on those 14, 15-mile walks, what are you listening to anything? What's your mind doing during that time?
Depends. So that's actually a good question. I was just talking to a buddy about this. I was like, yeah, like, like what do you listen to? And I'm like, honestly, like, so in those 5 a.m.s, let's say if it's in the winter time. So if I take it back to the winter, that depends. If it's out, I usually have like some AirPods or open runs. And if it's just an easy day, then then I have some probably music on, maybe a podcast or something. And I'm listening to that during the walk. When I do a hard workout, though, I usually don't have anything in because I'm trying to mimic races as best as possible at that point. And obviously in racing, we don't get, especially at our big races, we don't have available our earphones or anything. You're just racing, with the person next beside you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm just, at that point, I'm actually like, okay, I won't bring my earbuds or anything. Like I'm just going to focus on, the workout itself. Because I know I need to stay, in a race, I need to kind of stay focused. I need to work on the mental aspect of it because these are longer races. So you got to work on the mental aspect of that portion as well.
How long is a race? I feel like I should know this, but how long is a race?
No, yeah. So our race, it depends. Right now, our standard distances are 20,000 meters, 20K, 20 kilometers, about 12.4 miles, just slightly shorter than a half marathon. And then we do our second distance right now is a 35K. That's our two standard distances, 35K kilometers. So that's around 21-ish miles, I should say. And so, but next year we're changing. The World Athletics is having us change to the half marathon and the marathon. So our shorter distance is going to be the half marathon. Our longer distance is the marathon, kind of getting synonymous with all of distance road activities.
Yeah.
So we're going to be kind of there with everybody else. So people can be like, oh, wow, it's hard for people to kind of say like, oh, a 35K, you do that in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like that's pretty good. You're pushing like, mid to low sevens a
Right.
mile, for that long. That's really good. Like, how does that equate to? Because most people don't do 35K, they do marathons, half marathons. Now I'll be like, when we go out and do a marathon, I'll be like, wow, you do 310 for a marathon walking it? That's pretty crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it'll be interesting.
That's incredible. And we had Julie Johnson from the Fox Cities Marathon on, and she's actually the one that first brought you up, that you amazed her one year walking. So it's they have race walking as well as part of the events of the marathon, and that's great to see.
Yeah, so that's one of the cool things. When I first moved up here, I moved up here around, I want to say it was June or July 2023. I moved up here and I was like, oh, like to the Fox Valley region from St. Louis. And I was like, oh, like this will be really interesting to see. Like, I was looking for fall races because I was already doing base training at that point, probably in like early August, late July. And at that point, I was like, oh, I'm just trying to see if there's any races to do. Because like base training, you're doing a lot of easy miles. They're easy, but they get kind of cumbersome and monotonous. And you're just sitting there like, man, you could be doing more. So I always wonder, I'm like, okay, like, is there anything I can do on a Sunday instead of a 13-mile long walk? Let me go find a half marathon, which is 13 miles, and do something fun. So then I found the Fox Cities Marathon and half marathon, and then I saw that, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I saw they had a competitive walk division. I was like, well, that's really interesting. I never expected that. So I'll sign up and see what it's all about. It's funny because I got to the line, and some of the people I had actually noticed, maybe from when I did a couple races out in the Northwest area, like Oregon and Washington State. And I noticed a couple of the people and they were like, hey, you're walking today? And I was like, yeah, I'm walking. Like I joined this thing. I didn't know if it was really like actual like competitive walking. And they were like, yeah, like I'm in the area. Like I used to live in the Northwest. I'm like, oh yeah, I think I saw you at a race. And then I was like, oh, this is actually legit. Like actually there's actually real walkers out here. So, they were like, oh, when, I raced the race and I broke I think, course record by like 40 minutes. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
You can find every episode on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or YouTube, or any podcast app. Follow our social accounts for show updates, local events, inspirational content, or simply for fun. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, or Instagram. Please contact the Newsa-Cast to share your story, offer a suggestion of a particular athlete or sport, or even an idea, or just simply say hello. Newsa-Cast@gmail.com. Are more marathons now including race walking? Is that becoming more of a thing?
I've seen it more. So they at least include like a division for walking. And so I've seen that more, especially in the Midwest, a bit at a few marathons. I've seen it more also in the West, like in California. We'll have a few that have some added like competitive walk or race walking divisions that you can basically, like if as long as you're walking and keeping the rules, the same boundaries as regular race walking, then you can get those medals, and they're the same medals as anything else. They just keep divisions kind of separate, which is nice because usually in my races then I'm having to get in the running division, and yes, I can beat a few people, but I'm not going to be able to beat everybody. So it's always, it's nice that those people add that group in there. So yeah, I think I've seen a decent amount start to pop up now.
And your story out there, I think maybe more and more people will be attracted to it. Well, we should probably do our due diligence and go back to the beginning. Like you mentioned, you're from Atlanta, Georgia. We talked about the weather up here. It was way different down there for you. But what was life like growing up in Atlanta?
It was, obviously if you think of Atlanta, the first thing people probably think is like busyness, traffic,
Coca-Cola,
a Coca-Cola, a hub. they think of sport teams and things like that. That's what Atlanta kind of is. I'm a huge Atlanta sports fan. I'm a huge Falcons fan. So go Falcons when the season starts.
Yeah.
Huge Brave fan, but we're not doing so well. So yeah, I think sports is a big thing. So that's why I was always into sports, growing up. Played basketball, obviously. We had, obviously Georgia is home to a lot of great basketball players, a lot of great football players as well. So, I never played football. I'm not built for that. My mom wouldn't let me. but it's always interesting. Like I think it was a busy childhood. I think it's a diverse area. It's very, like every area feels like there's something to do. There's something going on. Schools are packed. We start school in early August usually, which was crazy to me when I moved up to the Midwest and they start school after Labor Day. I was like, what? So I was like, that must be nice. Yeah, Atlanta was I liked Atlanta. I really did. So yeah.
And we briefly touched on it, but you're playing basketball and you turn 10 years old and you see a track basically, right? You start to run, but very, very quickly that turned into walking. I guess, can you kind of walk us through that? How did you come to walking? Who were some of the people that kind of led you into that direction?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So when I was doing basketball, doing like what you call travel ball and rec league ball. So I was doing like the AAU style like basketball stuff. And I was not getting frustrated, but I was just like, oh, like, I just want to try something new. Like I've been playing basketball since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was like, this is something like that I can keep doing. But is there any other sport that I can try that would give me a chance to see if I'm good at it, right? And so I actually, my mom brought me out to a rec league track meet that they were having, recreational league in like Douglas County, Georgia, which is where we lived, especially I think like when we moved there about 8 or 9, so or something like that. We moved up there and then I started doing this rec league track meet. I was terrible. I did terrible. I think I did the 800 and the mile at this meet. And I'm pretty sure on the mile, I almost started walking. I was to that point. And the 800, actually, I came across the line in the 800, which was the second race. I came across the line in the second race in 800, and some kid behind me. So I was like, oh, I'm not last. And the kid behind me came and bulldozed me over at the finish line. I was like, this is terrible. So I'm sitting there like whimpering, and it's funny because I'm sitting there whimpering in the crowd. I'm like, like they're doing other races. And my mom's like, you'll cheer up. You'll be better next time. It's your first race ever. And they call my name, down there to get a medal for my age division. I was like, I got a medal. I almost got dead last. Like, I got a medal. And so then I go down there and get that medal. And then my mom's like, well, like, you got a medal. You want to keep doing it? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it. So I actually like after that, there was a few kids at that recreational meet that were on this like summer kind of travel track team, right? And I was like, and it was in the same area that we lived in. And so my mom had gotten in contact with the people up there and then had, brought me out to one of their practices. And I went out there. I was, again, pretty bad. But I was, she would ask me like, you want to keep coming back? And I'm like, yeah, I want to keep coming back. Like, this is fun. Like, she was probably happy because, I was probably ready to go to sleep at the end of the day because, I'm running. So I ended up actually joining that team. It was called E1 Track Club. Coached by Coach Fawn Williams, and Gene Williams was the administrator, his wife. And actually their son, so Vaughn Williams Jr., Trey, their son was doing walking. He was actually pretty good at the time. And they actually had like maybe 2 other people who were doing race walking who had like Coach Vaughn had kind of trained them up as well. And during our practices, I would see them over there at the other side of the track going, like walking and doing their little form stuff and their little drills. And I'd be like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, it's a little funny walking business, but that looks interesting, And at that point, I had done a race. I had done one race with the actual club team, and it was all right. I didn't get a medal, but I was like, oh, like, I want a medal, like, again, So then I was like, maybe it was like 2 weeks after that initial race, I came and asked the coach, like, hey, like, your son does walking, I want to learn that walking stuff over there, can I learn that? And he was like, oh, like kind of put it off. Like, we'll look at it another week. And then the next week I would come and be like, hey, like, I'm going to try it. So then he had me try it, and I picked it up, I think, decently fast. That's what he thinks, is I picked it up pretty fast. And they had a master's meet. We were only doing like 100 meters at practice or something, just to kind of ease it in. And I went to Google, researched, and did all the stuff. They had a little like open masters meet probably a week later. We all got to join. It was free. It was open for anybody to join. There's only a couple kids in my age division, and it was a 1500. I ended up like winning that. I think I did like 10:30 for a 1500 or something like that. And I was stoked. I was like, I won my first race ever, like, and it happened to be race walking. I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And I kept, every meet that we had, I would do it if they had it available at that meet, which most meets did. And then we had qualifiers for what they call like the Junior Olympics or something like this is AAU Junior Olympics and USATF Junior Olympics. I started doing the walking there. And I kept winning. So I was like, oh man, like I keep winning. I got to keep doing this. Like, and I kept getting faster slowly. I would knock off like 10 seconds or 15 seconds. When I went to, then we had AAU Junior Olympics, which I believe my first year was in Norfolk, Virginia, and at Norfolk State University. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. I think I came in, I forgot the exact ranking. I think I was like 7th or 8th coming in. And I was like, like, I would always go out hard and then pretty much die. I would fall off like my own pace, but I would go out so hard, against like 2 or 3 kids, that's probably going to win you the race. But I was like, coming into Junior Olympics, if I get a medal, which was top 8, and I'll be happy. I ended up like going out hard and leading the race, and nobody caught me. So I ended up winning the JOs in my first year. And everybody was like, who is this kid? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I even did it myself. And so like my first race, I started at right around like that master's race, that open little race was 10:30. I ended up finishing that year around like 8:30 for a 1500. And I ended up winning that race by like maybe 12 seconds or something. The final JOs, the Junior Olympics National Championship race when I was 10. And so then after that, I was like, oh, I gotta keep doing this. Like, I'm a Junior Olympic champion. I have to defend my titles. And then the next year, like, I came back and I won that race. And I was like, oh man, like, this is actually like my thing now. Like, I got to keep doing this. I just kept doing it. So until I'm here now. So I just that's how I kind of got into it. Our team grew a lot. We actually, after me, we had, a ton of walkers that would join in on our team and then learn walking and all that. So we would have a ton, like I think at a time every year, we would probably have about like 10 walkers on our team, or 10 or 15 walkers. So it went from like only 3 and then me joining in maybe 4 to like now it's like, oh, like it was 10 to 15 people a year wanting to do the walking, and like every meet wanted to join in and try to get in on it. So, that team is not there anymore. They kind of switched names. Their coach retired and kind of did some other stuff. But yeah, it was a good team. So
I'm curious. You talk about being at that track practice, doing something different. You're playing, other sports, but besides getting a medal, there's got to be something that was a spark. That's something that just grabbed you. You don't hear a lot about competitive walking, and it's not like you're seeing it on TV and say, hey, that's the person I want to be. What was it that just drew you in?
So I would say the initial draw was the external, like, hey, I got a medal, right? But then after that, I would go to a meet and, people would come up to me and be like, hey, you're really fast. Or then I would have like nowadays, like, or when I got older, especially like maybe more into my teens, people would be like, hey, we've seen you walking for a long time. You're really inspiring and something like that. And I was only a teenager, but I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, like, like you've been watching me walk since I was 10. Now I'm like 14, like, and you still see me walking like at these races and stuff. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I would have people not on our team, cheering for me at races, if we had a joint qualifier between different states or something,
Sure.
our state would, other teams in our state would, be cheering for me, like, "Go Jordan." I'm like, "I don't even know you, but thanks." It'd be like really, it's always nice, to get that support from others around the, track and field community. And
Cool.
so that was, one of the things that drew me in to keep me going. And then now, for me, I I coach clinics. I'm usually doing some virtual training with people, doing a bunch of little other things. Helping out at Junior Olympics, AAU, or doing some of those other things. And people always come up to me and be like, "Hey, like we see you walking still. Like we follow you. Your social medias are online. Like please, like we really enjoy it." I had somebody actually come up here. Um, it was one of the kids from AU Junior Olympics. He came up from like Texas and flew up here because he was like, like our parents, like they had some family in the area and they were like, "We're gonna fly up here, we're gonna meet our family, but we really want to see you. We've been trying to see you for the longest." I was like, "Oh, this is great." Like, like I think some of that is just the support that I get
Sure.
from, all the people around the community. The race walking community is a small, tight knit community, but it's very supportive.
Okay.
And so it's really always cool and interesting, and again, motivating others is the nice, like, intrinsic value for myself now, teaching others and doing that type of stuff.
Northeast Wisconsin Sports Advancement, or Newsa, is a nonprofit org where our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness to youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through the Every Kid Plays grant. If you are considering donating or providing support through Newsa, please visit redsmith.org for details. So you have a great junior career, high school career. It's time to go to college. And if I'm reading it right, none of the NCAA colleges have race walking. So you had to go the NAIA route, and that worked out well. But could you talk about that process just a little bit? What happened at that time of your life? What were you looking for?
Yeah, so when I went the NAIA route, I kind of figured towards the last like couple years um of my high school career, I was like, I'm probably going to do this in college. Um, I'm probably going to have to go the NAIA route because at that point, and still now, NCAAs don't have race walking. So I was like, okay, that's okay to me. Um, I was actually starting to talk to some NAIA schools that had reached out, of course, because they had seen me walking or stuff like that. And it's a big point getter because it's at their nationals. Teams can really rack up in points there, and the more points you get, and if you're winning championships, there's more funding for your school and all that type of stuff,
Mhm.
right? So, um, they were really trying to get me. One of the things that drew my attention actually was when I went to Missouri Baptist. Um, they had previous walkers for a long time. They were kind of known to be one of the top walking schools. One of the coaches or advisors to me when I was younger, Tish Hannah, she had like contacted me. She wasn't at the school anymore, but she had coached there at the school and coached a lot of like really top walkers. She coached probably I think two Olympians now from that school. And so I was like, oh, like, like she had reached out saying, "Hey, like you should check them out still. They're pretty good." And so I went to check them out. I also like the fact that it was in a city. It was in St. Louis. Some of the schools that were recruiting me were in like, rural areas like West Virginia or like, some cornfield. And I was like, oh, like, I don't mind the cornfields or anything, but if I'm trying to travel back to Atlanta, that makes it really hard. If I'm trying to like go back home, it makes it really hard to catch a flight or do something like that. Um, and for me, I was born in the city, raised kind of outside the city of Atlanta in the suburbish area. But again, a lot of times in the city. So I was like, you know what, like I enjoy a suburb city life or something like that. Like, don't really want to go straight rural. So I was trying to find anything in the city. I've landed on Missouri Baptist. They gave me a good offer and stuff. So that's how I kind of ended up there in St. Louis, and competed in cross country, track, and obviously race walk there.
The Olympics, how does it work? I know you had one qualifying, you finished third, right? But that did that not qualify for the team?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the Olympics, yeah, I finished third. But you need for qualifying, you have to either there's an automatic standard, or there is what you call a world ranking system, which they just created probably in the last like 4-ish years, that's been going on. So the world ranking system is basically a culmination of like, what you do at bigger events, not just your time, but also your place. There's a time placement. There's like what do you call it? There's a table that they have basically that shows like, hey, here's the time and here's how many points you would get. And then if you go to a big race and you do that time at this big race and get, let's say, 8th place or something, then you would get extra bonus points. And there's a certain threshold to hit to get into the Olympics with all your points. And you get an average basically of your 3 best races out the year. And for me, I only went to like 2 big races. And so I probably should have connected on trying to get to another race. But a lot of the races happen to be in like Europe or overseas. So it makes it tough to get over there. We try to host some here in the United States, which I know is an issue, like not even in race walking, but in track and field in general, because this applies to track and field. The world ranking system is out there for everything, track and field wise now. But it makes it tough sometimes trying to get to bigger races because, they're in Europe, they're in all those countries overseas in Europe, Asia. And so trying to get to those makes it tough. So you have to kind of really plan it out. We tried again to get more on U.S. soil or in North American or in the Western Hemisphere. And that's a work in progress. We have gotten some more. But that's probably one of the tougher things to try to make the Olympics now, especially in the distance era, in the distance events.
I mean, that is a challenge. I mean, presumably all you guys and gals that are competing, you all have jobs and regular lives. I mean, that would be difficult. Who can get up and go to Europe to compete, and what employer is going to, you have to have a really understanding employer, I'm sure, as well.
Oh yeah. I have an understanding employer. This year I've been able to go to like 2 races outside the United States, which is nice. I went to one in Slovakia and then another one in Poland, and Warsaw. So that was nice. The year before I only went to 2, or one outside the United States, and then one here in the US. That was big. That probably got me enough points, but I needed probably to go to another one. At least a 2 and a 1. But it's nice now. My employer is pretty okay with me doing that type of stuff. They know me, and they know like my whole story and all that stuff. So that's good. It is just, it's a tough, it's tough for anybody, for all of us, most of the walkers I know, again, they do have jobs. I know ones that are PAs, me, I'm a data analyst, like there's others out there that do, other things. Basically, we're all regular job people. Some are teachers, so that even makes it kind of tough because, teachers, it's tough to get off, right? So especially during the racing season, which is the spring season, right? That's the tough part to get off for those people. So it's always interesting, seeing that dynamic for us U.S. walkers. It makes it tough. Other walkers around the world, a lot of them are getting, funding from funding their sport body, their government sport body. So, they're not having to really have other jobs, but so they get this as full time. But for us, it's a kind of like a side hobby. Like this, we're really good at it. We're trying to get better. Getting that funding is tough though.
Are you able to get like sponsors or anything like that to help you out?
Yeah. So I'm able to get sponsors, clubs to help out. I'm on a walking club right now called Rally Walkers. They're actually based out of North Carolina, but they help out a little bit. If anybody's out there wanting to sponsor me, I am fully open to hearing it. So I am never turning down a sponsor right now. So if they're willing to sponsor anything. I'm open. But yeah, we can, get sponsors or anything.
Okay.
The season is mostly in the spring, but what does a schedule look like for you for the spring and summer?
Yeah, so at least the last 2 years, or including the 2024, the Olympic year, usually, our longer races, no, well, I should take this back. We have our bigger races or long, long races. So the 35K, which is our longest race of the year, right? That's usually going to be done in like January. And usually that race for the last like 2 or 3 years, the longer race has been in California. It's been in like the San Diego area. They've been doing a good job hosting that event usually, and that's usually in January. January in like San Diego is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good. Like we'll start with like mornings are like 50s, and it gets up to maybe like 70 low. So it's nice for them, of course, but and it's nice for me, coming from the 30s and 20s. I'd rather not race in that. So. Uh, it's nice there, and that's usually when we have our first like big race of the year, usually early to mid January, and then straight into that after that long race, which is usually the 35K or something like that. Going to be the marathon next year, right? Usually after that we go into the indoor season, which is same with track. Indoor season usually is like January or maybe December, January, and like February and a little bit of March. So for us, we get indoor season, which is late January, middle of February. Usually I'll do a race kind of in the Midwest at a college meet or something that's having race walk, a part of like usually an NAIA race. I'll just join in as an unattached athlete or something, just as an open athlete, and just try to get a time. And then I'll usually, if I do good, I usually do for the indoor race. I usually go to some of our big indoor races. We actually do the mile race walk. It's a big event at Milrose Games, which is in New York City. It's like probably the longest. I think it's the oldest indoor track event ever. I think it was like started to get hosted in like the early like 1900s or something. And they did it in Madison Square Garden, but now they have the Armory building. So we usually have that race there. It's a mile. It's all in conjunction with a bunch of other like indoor races from runners, elite distance runners, elite athletes, everything are usually at that race or at that event. And then we'll do USA. Usually I only do like 3 indoor races. My NAI one that I'm just meeting up with, the Milrose, and then I'll have an outdoor or an indoor national championship for USATF, USA Track and Field. And then after that, we kind of go straight into our outdoor season. And a lot of the big outdoor races overseas that are on the road, that are big point getters and stuff for the world ranking, are usually in that March to April timeframe. Some in May, April, March, or March, April, May. Those are usually like the biggest time where you'll see people really try to get out because they're just coming off of quick indoor seasons where they tried to like kind of go fast at the indoor ranking, but they've done their base period in the winter time, did some speed training with that indoor track stuff, and then now they're like, okay, we're coming outdoors and we're going to kind of put it all together, try to put down some fast times at some of these, European or Asian races out there that they can get into. So usually that's where when I went to Slovakia and Poland, Slovakia was in late March, and then I had the race in Poland, which was in like early May. So there was a little bit of a time frame. I did like a small race in April, but usually that's again like where people were trying to kind of throw down good times, and that's usually my peak season. After that, we kind of try to find a race here and there. I did a race in like Cali in like I want to say it was like mid to early June, and then we had USA Outdoor Championships, which was probably I think like 2 weeks ago. So, and that was in Eugene, Oregon. So usually, yeah, it's kind of like you get a race, and then probably like every 4 weeks there's a race that you try to get into. So you kind of do a race, a training block, which is about 3 or 4 weeks for some people, a race, training block, race again, training block. Some people can do back-to-back races. I'm not in that realm right now, but yeah, I tried to like kind of a race training block, especially in my racing season.
Yeah, what is a recovery? So after a race, like how soon could you race another race?
So like if I like can put it together, usually I can race probably like, I mean, if you're really into it, they can race like next week. Like you can if you really
Wow.
like are trying. But if you're really trying to like tune up and, you know, settle in for a certain race and really try to, periodize your training, then I usually take like 3 or 4 weeks in between, which is usually my training block. So usually I can do a couple weeks, like let's say I race, I'll usually do like maybe I get a couple of days of rest, jump back into training, train hard for the next 2 weeks, maybe two and a half, and then start tapering down a week and a half, a week for the next race. And then again, doing the same kind of thing.
Do you ever have an off season, or are you pretty much training year round?
No, I would call my base the off season, but I would also say like after the last race of the year, the last like tough race of the year for me, which is like usually it's like USA's, but I've kind of taken a different approach. This year will be like I'm gonna kind of keep training through the Fox Cities Marathon, and then after the marathon, take an off season or a break for like 2 or 2-ish weeks, or maybe 2.5 weeks or something, and then kind of start slowly ramping up back into training. So I'm gonna take those 2.5 weeks to almost do absolutely nothing. Not absolutely nothing. I'll still be in the gym doing maybe a couple easy walks here and there with some of the my running club or something like that, Pace Setters Running Club. But then after that, then I'll start kind of ramping up, slowly getting back up my mileage. Yeah.
So you talk a lot. I mean, I know the coaching side and the training and stuff like that, but there's really a logistical side of the travel and finding events and things like that. Do you work with somebody, or is that all on your shoulders to figure that out?
That's kind of all on my shoulders to figure that
Okay.
out. That's it. It really is like, and when the schedule usually comes out, usually people kind of, the walking community kind of knows like, hey, these are the races. There actually is a World Athletic calendar out there,
Okay.
that will show like there's an A rank race in Slovakia in March, or there is an A rank race to be determined in Slovakia around this time frame. So you kind of already start building into your training plan, like, okay, somewhere around this time frame, there will be a race that you want to go to. You gotta already have to start, thinking of logistics, of how I'm going to get there, financials, all this type of stuff, getting, all that type of stuff that goes into that. You got to start thinking of that beforehand. So I know like for USA's, like we'll have our marathon championships, our big marathon race in early January. I already know that. I talked to some people at USA Outdoor Championships a couple weeks back and was like, hey, like, when do you think this is going to be? And they're like, hey, it's going to be like probably the first week of January. So kind of prepare for that. I know now in my mind, all right, I need to kind of like my base period, getting my mileage up will be in preparation, trying to peak and get around that time frame of that early January. Sure. So you start to hear it from the community, and then you also see it online saying there's a race to be determined at around this date. Some of the really big races, they already have it, like the date already locked on the calendar. So like, Fox Cities Marathon will be like, hey, this race for next year, we already know what the date for next year will be, right? In 2026, right. So they already got it handled. The smaller races, you'll hear the to be determined, but those big races for race walking overseas or anywhere, usually like they're planned a year or two out. So we already know the dates for those.
Can you pretty much eat whatever you want, or are you pretty conscious of your diet? I mean, the amount of calories you pump out is insane.
I'm trying to get better.
Me too.
I know. That's what everybody says. I'm trying to get better. I would say I usually do like, again, like I try to prioritize it too. Like I try to get up my carbs. Carbs are, like a runner, any type of like cardio is like best friend or carbs. Not the greatest for everybody if you're not doing like cardio like us, but it's like if you're doing cardio like me, carbs are your best friend, because if you get carb depleted, you will be bonking when you race or work out. So I do say like I'm not as stringent, like it's tough too, because for me the problem, like I told somebody the other day, I said for me like the actual issue is like not eating enough. Like I did a long walk, I think like a 18 or 19-mile long walk once. I looked down at my watch and roughly it's an estimate. It's giving like a calculation off a formula that's not fully accurate, but it was like you burned 2,800 calories during this walk. And I'm thinking, holy cow, like I got to eat all this back. I got to get all this back right now. Like, or I'm going to like feel like terrible throughout the rest of the day, or I'm not going to recover right. So like actually eating enough, and especially when you're doing like, for me, sometimes in that base winter season, you're doing like 100-mile weeks, or you're getting close to 100 miles. Like that's 2 a days every, like almost every day of like, hey, you're doing like 6 miles, or maybe you're doing 10 miles in the morning or 7 miles in the morning, and then switching, coming back in the afternoon and doing, 9 or 10. So it's like, you got to really, you know, eat and keep up the actual calories, or you're going to come in that deficit, and then you're not going to be ready to train. When it gets to the hard workouts, you're not going to have the energy to do it. You're going to feel pretty sluggish. So actually, like now I try to, not just get empty calories in, because that's not the real calories, but it is kind of tough, like, trying to get it in. So I wouldn't say I'm very stringent, because I know I just need to get the calories at some point sometimes.
And you love restaurants. You're reading the article in Fox City Sports. Tosh and I are big fans of restaurants as well. And I know you pick pancakes. You can't go wrong with a good breakfast joint, right?
No. And I tell people, it's like, for me, pancakes is carbs. It's simple carbs. It gets like, as soon as I'm done, walking, I need carbs, and I need almost simple carbs. I need something that will just go straight into the bloodstream and get it going, like now. So I'm like, oh, pancakes and syrup, like that's freaking perfect. And it's a lot of calories, like,
yeah.
I can't go wrong. I'll get some eggs. Like my girlfriend will say, like, hey, you need to get some eggs to make sure you get a little protein to, feel like you're doing something. So I will get a couple of eggs and, to make sure I get protein, but I'm making sure, like, I'm pancakes. That's one of my top things. And I'm a big restaurant junkie on pancakes.
Yeah.
Like I told my friends, I'm a pancake connoisseur. So like, I know a good pancake when I get it.
Oh yeah. So we'll put you to the test. Where are the restaurant joints in the area? Where do you recommend pancakes?
Oh man, I would say, first there's Third Street Diner off Third Street in Menasha,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. It's a good one.
Good call.
It's pretty good. And Nina, if you're in the Nina area, Papa's Cafe is pretty solid.
Shout out
Papa's
Dave.
Cafe and Pop.
Dave's a friend of ours. He's a great golfer.
Yeah, and so that's a really good one. I would say that one. If you're in like the northeast part of the Fox Valley like area, kind of getting like towards the 441, there's Galvin's. That's pretty solid as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also on that side, there's Chico's. Chico's pretty good. I've had Chico's a lot. They're open kind of late, like
they are
every day. So that's really nice when I'm like, oh man, I just did a hard workout at 6 and they're open till 8. Most pancake places are only open until 2 o'clock, right? So it's like, this is great. Right.
That's one of the great crimes of COVID. It shut all the restaurants down. They didn't open up anymore. We used to have late night diners. You can't get pancakes. One place at 8 o'clock. It's ridiculous.
Right. And I come from, like I told somebody, I come from Atlanta, where, like there's Waffle House around. There's Waffle House 24 hours. So when there's 24-hour Waffle House, like I come from the area where you can like go Waffle House at late night, 11 o'clock, like midnight, and go get Waffle House. I was a college kid. I was like late night, I was going to get a Waffle House at midnight if I had to, so it was kind of tough. After COVID, I'm thinking, man, like when I moved up to the Fox Valley, I was thinking, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I can go get something. Nope, nothing's open.
Oh,
darn,
no.
I'm screwed. So yeah, so that's been a tough adjustment.
Absolutely. I so wish we had Waffle Houses up here. It's so sad.
Yeah.
I have to shout out. You have to try Mateo's. It's on Wisconsin Avenue in Appleton. It's I highly recommend. Pancakes are excellent. Skillets are great. It's my go-to breakfast place, Mateo's.
They're pretty good. I've been there, I think a couple times. I haven't been able to go over there because I'm not usually on the east side a lot, but they're pretty solid. They're pretty solid.
So I had a question. I mean, it's come up. I know I joined late, but since I joined, there's several times you mentioned the sense of community within the walking community. That sense of family, is that a huge part of what keeps drawing you back and keeps you excited about this?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's always like nice because like all the competitors that I'm usually with at, especially at like national level meets, um, they're at USA or something like that. Like we've all known each other for years. So like everybody knows each other. You know, it's always a nice, like, feels like a reunion when you get to like show up to the meet and you're like, hey, like there you are. Like, was waiting until you showed up. Like, so it's nice to see like everybody. I know probably almost all the walkers that are there usually. So that's nice. Whenever we, whenever like, I say I'm going to go travel to Europe or something, like, we'll go travel, like do a race to Europe, and a lot of the walkers in the US will, like, especially if we're all trying to, get our funds together and make sure, like, like we stay financially, like liable or good for this, I think it's like, hey, like, is anybody going to this race? Like we can stay together, like while we're in Europe or something like that. We try to get together and like make those plans and kind of have a family. So it's nice. Like it's a good community when we have that type of support.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. I also know you're a big reader as well. That probably helps on the long flights over. Maybe a weird question, one we've asked other listeners before. Tosh and I both like to read, but I also like to listen to audiobooks. So in your opinion, if you listen to an audiobook, is it the same thing as reading the book? It's a highly debated topic.
No, I think it is, and honestly, like it took me a long time because I used to say the same thing. I was like, "It's not. No, it's not the same." Like, and I again, I prefer a hardback book. Like, I prefer that over an audio book. But there comes a time when, like, if you're trying to get through a book, it's tough. Like, if I'm at work and I'm putting in data or doing some stuff, like I'm trying to listen to something or like I can't read the book, right?
Right.
Like I can't read it hard copy. So like the audio book is nice, especially if it's a, a book I'm interested in. I can listen to it over my earbuds or something. When I'm in an airport and you're walking from gate to gate in Chicago O'Hare or Appleton or something like that, then it's like, hey, like you're not going to be able to read. There's too many people around. Like you're going to run into something. It is nice, the audiobook. And same thing on a plane. I've done those trips to Europe or something like that, and it's dark. They turn off the lights on the plane. I can't read, or I don't really want to like disturb the person beside me with the light on. So yeah, an audiobook is pretty nice. So I say I used to be like, no, it's not. No, that's lame, and you're a weakling. For reading an audiobook. But no, like I think an audiobook, honestly, now it helps. It's not my preferred method. But it helps in the short term when I'm like in a pinch. It helps.
I love that answer. It's I subscribe to the exact same thing. It took me a while, but I agree. Well, I know we're an hour and 15 into this, and I feel we could talk all day. But one last question here, just over the next couple of years, you're still, you're in your mid-20s, you're in your prime, maybe not even the walking prime. I think they say the walking prime is in your 30s. What the Olympics, I know, are a goal. I guess, what can we look for? What are your goals here over the next few years, kind of with the Olympics in mind? What can we expect from you?
Yeah, so next year we have World Team Race Walk Championships, kind of like our World Cup. That's the other term for it, World Cup Race Walking Championships. I think next year it's in Brazil. Don't hold me to that. I think it's in Brazil, though. Trying to make that team for the U.S., for U.S. Team USA, trying to make that team. That will kind of, get me that experience on that international level that I need, especially in like the Team USA format, Team USA on that end. So trying to make that team. There is no World Championships or anything next year because it usually takes a 2-year break. So there won't be any next year. So trying to get myself prepared for 2027, which I believe is in London. So trying to get myself prepared for that. Trying to do probably the marathon at that championships. So trying to get ready for that team, and then that team will help me kind of prepare for trying to make the team for 2028, which is in LA for that race walk. So that Olympics. Then obviously anything can happen there, and then that's not even the prime, like you said. The prime really for a lot of the top walkers in the world have always been like in their low 30s, low to mid 30s. We've seen like some of the top walkers, and that you'll see that in marathon running as well. A lot of marathoners, like they're in their prime, probably around their mid 30s, right? They're early to mid 30s. They're like really, that's when they're really like baking it in. They're really putting down great times and going to good races and doing well. So for me, just trying to, over this next, really, I would say 8 years, this is my time to really like bake it in, trying to really put down some good times, place well, try to make the Olympics either 2028, hopefully. I think I have a good shot there, and or 2032, I'll have a really good shot, which is in Brisbane. But so just trying to be prepared for any of those moments that come up.
What is the competition like in the U.S.? Is it pretty fierce in the walking world here in the U.S.? And then are there other countries that are dominant in walking?
Yeah, I would say the U.S. right now, we're in a kind of a development stage. We had a really good crew, probably like, probably 10 or 20 years ago. We had a really, really solid crew. Some people medaled at the Olympics. Since then, it's been kind of, trying to get back to people in the pipeline. So we have like I wouldn't say like a shortage, but we're trying to get it back up. I think we have a good crew now and a lot of younger people kind of around my age or maybe a little bit younger, a little bit older, who are trying to get into that realm where we can really compete on that international stage. There are some real powerhouses like in Europe where, again, like there's a lot more accessibility to the funds and the training centers and the races that you need to go to. Spain's a big one. I know France has gotten good. Germany's really strong now. If you look in Asia, which is probably even the strongest part of the world, just deep wise, they have Japan. Japan's probably like the top walking country time wise in the world. China is there. I know in South America, they've always been really excellent with walking. So, they come, Ecuador, Brazil's got a number of people, Mexico, of course, Guatemala, Panama, I know, like, Venezuela has a decent number of walkers. Yeah, so there's a lot, especially in the South America, and they're very deep all the way down Central and South America as well.
Yeah, that's who knew?
Yeah. It's all over. It's a worldwide thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm way past my prime, but would a 5'7" guy have any chance to compete in that world?
Yes. That's probably where most of the South Americans probably sit around the 5'7" to 5'8" guys.
Yeah, all right.
And in the race walking, I always tell people, I'm like, a lot of it is like, it's not a conducive sport to like, hey, like you're a tall person and you automatically are really good. And distance running, basketball, other sports where there's less boundaries, having that height, which is a natural, like, hey, like you're really tall, you're going to get longer legs, is nice. But when you have those boundaries and rules of you got to have 2 feet on the ground at all times and you got to land with a straight leg, it kind of evens the playing field. And honestly, like the best way I always tell people to get faster is to put down more steps, because the cadence is really important. Getting your cadence up, your steps per minute. Honestly, you'll see some of the walkers elite walkers, they're putting down 200 plus steps per minute.
Dang.
Which is like right around what you'll see with like 800 runners. They're putting down, their stride's just not as long, right? But they're putting down about the same amount of steps as an 800 runner who is doing. And so when you're putting down that many steps, it's actually nice sometimes being shorter, because you can put down more steps. You're getting really quick steps. And so that's nice. So sometimes I'm like, it is 5'7", 5'8". I've seen people who are flying at 5'7", 5'8" in this sport.
I'll work on the stride on the mail route, see what I can do. Well, Jordan, I know, heck, you probably have to go walk yet tonight. We've kept you so long here, but it was a pleasure to meet you. An incredible story, and gosh darn it, you're right here in our neighborhood, and it's just It's incredible. Congratulations, and it's going to be a thrill to watch you here the rest of your career.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it's time to go back into the archives of the Red Smith Sports Banquet. And we have an all-audio throwback this time. And that is the great Milwaukee Brave, Warren Spahn, who played for Milwaukee Braves from 1953 to 1964, I believe. It was an amazing time. He was a great pitcher. He came to the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
Yeah, he was before our time, but we certainly heard a lot about Warren Spahn. If you're a fan of the Brewers and you listen to Bob Uecker, Ueck always talked about Warren Spahn, considered him one of the all-time great pitchers, right there with Sandy Koufax back in those years. But yeah, Warren Spahn, he was the man.
Yeah, so sit back and enjoy. And remember, if you want to, you can't really see this interview, but if you want to go back and listen to the entire interview, you can listen to it on our YouTube channel, and that comes out on Sunday morning.
The Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
The main reason that this banquet was established was to honor at least 10 local area people who might not have been honored for the job they do to help in sports.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport.
Who has made a significant contribution to sports in the state of Wisconsin.
And also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest left-hander of all time, Warren Spahn. Reverend clergy, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, you know, what can you say to follow an act like that? If I could have picked the person to make my epitaph or introduce me, I couldn't have picked a better person. So thank you, Danny Ornstein and the committee. And thank you for bringing me back to Wisconsin. As I look out through the audience, I see some of my very favorite people that when we were all created, the good Lord decided who he liked and who he didn't. And the ones he didn't like, he put hair on. Hey, this is a heck of a lot more people than they have in Hartshorne, I guarantee you. And I'm so delighted to be here with you, especially my friend Bruce Fremming. He and I were in the American Association together, and I knew him when there was a hell of a lot less of him. And it brings to mind the fact that the poor big league umpires couldn't go through the entire season unless they had a vacation. Now you have a witness as to what a vacation does for umpires. But baseball has one thing in our favor, is that, you know, instant replay keeps them on their toes. So, Bruce, you know, it was great being with you. And Lou Chapman, my buddy. Lou Chapman wrote for paper in Milwaukee for a number of years. And I know darn well that I wrote more stories that appeared in the paper through Lou Chapman because he never knew what the hell to write about. That's the truth. He came to my locker after every ball game and said, "Hey, Spahn, give me a story." I would like to say that I appreciate so much the Red Smith Award. I remember Red Smith as being a very sincere and dear buddy of Charlie Grimm's. And I remember Charlie playing his banjo in our clubhouse, and all of his good buddies with him, and they'd sing in the clubhouse, and it was a great atmosphere. And I remember Charlie Grimm, that he had a meeting the first day of the season, and he said, look, this is a bunt sign, this is a hit, and this is a take, and there won't be much take sign. And he said, there won't be any transom peaking in this ball club. He said, here's a ball and a bat and a glove, go out and get them. And I think that's what made us a great ball club. Really, Charlie was a great person. He loved Wisconsin. Red Smith loved Wisconsin. And all that Yumika-Kite, and that's the thing I remember about Wisconsin, especially Yumika-Kite. And I'm so terribly happy that you brought me here, and I was a part of it. Thank you.
All right, Tosh, a great throwback, audio throwback. When we get back into the 80s like that, we don't have video, so you're going to have to go audio. But it was cool to listen to one of the all-time great pitchers, Hall of Famer Warren Spahn of the Milwaukee Braves. And shout out to the Brewers, who are still playing pretty well. Well, Tosh, we're getting to the end of another great show. Thank you to Jordan for sure. We love that interview, but before we get out of here, we always like to play It's Forgotten, and I'm never forgetting, a little good, bad. So what's forgotten in your world, Tosh?
Well, what's forgotten in my world, I had the opportunity to move my son into his college house. So he's all out of the dorms and moving into a college house. And I'll tell you what, you want to forget what kind of crap holes college houses really, truly are.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible. You know, the floors are leaning towards one side. You put a golf ball on one side, it'd definitely roll to the other. You know, patching holes in the walls and things like that. Yeah, you know, I guess there's a reason why you live in them, only for a short period of time, because
yes,
they're usually
memories.
not the best. Yeah,
makers.
they're memory makers for sure. But I definitely want to forget the shape of that house. It's not the worst I've ever been in, but it's definitely not the best either.
My oldest boy, Cooper, he's fighting the same thing. He's also learning that there are good roommates and bad roommates.
Roommates can come and go, but yeah, you have both, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You need to learn people skills or how to deal with certain people. So sometimes that's not always easy.
All right, Joe, what are you never forgetting? Or forgetting, I should say.
Well, Tosh, I never knew this. I don't know if it's appropriate for it's forgotten or I'm never forgetting. I never knew this, but our good friend Dale Vervoort told me this, and I felt like he asked me a question. He said, what is the only backwards facing or left facing logo in the NFL? And I couldn't think of it. Didn't come. Do you know, Tosh, off the top of your head? The only
I do not.
Backward facing? Well, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Why is that? Well, here's another thing I never knew. The feathers of the Philadelphia Eagles is an E for, obviously, Eagles. So the reason it's backwards is so they can use the feathers to make an E. And I felt pretty small when Dale told me that. I felt like I should have known that, but I had no clue at all, and went down the old rabbit hole on Google, and sure enough, it's the only out of the 31 teams, it's the only backward facing, left facing logo. The feathers make an E, and that's pretty cool, Tosh. You can look at something your whole life and never know.
That is awesome. That's a good bit of trivia for you. Remember that at bar time so you can get your free drink or stump your friends. Maybe they won't remember that either.
So, Tosh, that's forgotten. How about you, though? What are you going to never forget this week?
Well, I just talked about forgetting college houses, but it did bring up some memories of college houses and some good times that were had in college houses. Whether it was Madison, whether it was Whitewater, whether it was Oshkosh, it didn't really matter. But those, you know what? You live in those dumpy houses to make some good memories. And I'm sure Will is going to make some excellent memories as well. Quarters, beer pong, whatever it was. There's some good times that were made in college houses. So I don't want to forget those good times, even though the houses were kind of dumps.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you have to go through that. That's a huge part of the college life. It's a huge part of growing up, and that's something that you should never forget. In fact, those make great stories, and some of those guys turn into your best friends for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. That's the good things to remember for that. So never forgetting that. How about yourself, Joe? What are you never forgetting?
Well, Tosh, I'm never going to forget a teacher and one of my best friends growing up, his dad, Mr. Keefe. He passed away after a heck of a life. He fought in Vietnam. You and I both had him as teachers. Mm-hmm. In fact, he was at Einstein. He was a history teacher. I can remember his room was next to Mr. Pekarsky's, and Mr. Pekarsky would play the Beatles. And it was kind of quite the mixture, wasn't it, with Pekarsky and Keefe? But they Ebony and Ivory, kind of. They were great together.
They were.
But Mr. Keefe was also my baseball coach. I mean, I was talking to my buddies, back in the day, he'd put 6 aluminum bats and probably 4 helmets in an old Army bag with a couple of baseballs. And, it's funny because we shared helmets. We didn't, you go to Little League games now and there's $10,000 worth of equipment in the dugout.
Oh, yeah.
We had a couple of crappy old, maybe Easton bats. I don't even know if we had Easton at that time. And you all shared the same helmet as well. I mean, we legit had like 4 helmets. So yeah, he was our T League coach and right through Appleton Park and Rec. We went through that whole program, and Mr. Keefe was our coach. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out him. I mean, he was one of the first, so many great stories going to their cottage. And like I said, Tommy, his a good friend of mine, and we all remember our childhood friends' dads. They're a big part of our lives as well.
I distinctly remember a time in his class, 7th or 8th grade, whatever it was. 7th, 8th graders screw around a little bit, and he called a whole bunch of us boys immature little toads. And it still sticks with me. It's still funny. It still cracks me up. He goes, "You're just a bunch of immature little toads." I'm like, now I think about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He wasn't lying. He wasn't lying.
No, he was not.
We got pulled over. I think the first time I was ever in a car that got pulled over by the police was Big Tom was driving. It was he got out of the speeding ticket though because it was opening day of fishing, and that was the excuse that he went with. And he wasn't actually lying. We were going up to their cottage to fish. So that was just the speed, and hey, he got out of the ticket. So well done.
Nice. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I think that wraps up a pretty good episode with those memories as well. And what a great episode for the Newsa-Cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Tosh, always a hoot. And go check out our catalog if you're new to the pod. We have a lot of them in there, a lot of great interviews. So thank you, folks, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Newsa-Cast. We appreciate your support in our journey to highlight and support youth sports in Northeast Wisconsin. Help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts or sharing the Newsa-Cast on social media. A huge thank you to Digstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig, find them on Spotify, or check them out at digstownrocks.com. One of the best ways to help us grow the show is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. It really helps our visibility. This Newsa-Cast was produced by Polywave Studios.